Hello ladies, I'm Lydia Ruth and welcome to the Manse. Before we go any further, please click the link in the description box if you're watching this on YouTube and go to the page where I have embedded it and included other pictures and kind of a summary of what I have spoken about. Now, before we get started today, I'd like you to go get dressed, go get bathed, go get dressed, and get ready to have a wonderful day. Get your list ready after you're dressed and have your cup of tea. Now today, I'm trying something someone sent me, Republic of Tea Pink Chai. And I don't know what it is about Republic of Tea. It makes me feel high-end, but it's great for a country girl just to take a pause. But this is what smells divine, and actually it is pink. Even if you leave the, I mean, it doesn't look pink in the video, but it looks pink when I look at it. Even if you leave the tea bag in there, it doesn't turn real dark or bitter. So, and then I got a new cup. I'm so excited. I just thought I'd try this. This is from the dollar store, $1.25. I just wanted to try it because it's shorter, and the tall cups tend to fall over. The cups and saucers sometimes tip. They're just a little bit flimsy. And I just wanted to try it, and I have been using it today for various things, and I really like it. So I might go get some more so that when the descendants come, they can try it too. I like that it's a little lower. It's not going to tip as easily. Okay, kids, I am wearing another one of my hand-sewn dresses today, and I just wanted to show you the little accessory that I made to go with it. Now these ribbons, I'll just put this maybe on the back of my hair. If I wear it at all, but because I have a little leftover fabric, I like to do a few interesting things. I might make a little drawstring purse, or I might make a little hat or something like that. But I made this long, and then I wanted to show you the netting that I have. And I had been to a fabric store one time, and I was really interested in this kind of netting that has the larger squares in it. I thought it was so much more glamorous, and I wanted to make a fascinator, and it was so expensive. It was in the bridal department. It was so expensive that I could only have, if I had bought it, I could have only afforded an inch. That's how expensive this was. It was extremely expensive, something like $50 a yard. So I didn't get it. But I began to notice, I thought, well, maybe I could just do this without costing me anything. And I just began to notice some things at the grocery store and household things. So here, this is another one of those net bags that vegetables come in, and it was red. So I got to use that. And I had noticed, too, that these kind of bows, I first started noticing them in pictures people were sending me of the young royal women. And the young ones are wearing these long bows in the back of their hair. It kind of goes with their dress. I suppose somebody else tells them how to dress. But then I started to notice they were at the Hobby Lobby too. So I found them very easy to make, and I showed you in the previous video that all I do is slide a clip through it, and the clip I get is at the dollar store, and then I will probably wear it sometime, but I just wanted you to see it. It's so cute. And I'm going to begin because you all need vitamins, you know. And this is your poetry Bible, because you are so deficient. You need a supplement. So here's your poetry for today to get you started. And I hope that in whatever circumstances you are in as you listen today, that you're getting more and more content. That's going to be my new saying. Yes, it's great to want improvement, but sometimes the thought of improvement can bring discontent when you can't reach it. So if you can bring more and more contentment into your life, it'll lower your cortisol, lower your everything else, and maybe increase your ideas. So, but first I'm going to read a couple of poems. I'm going through this book by Edgar A. Guest. And one of the things that I like about this kind of poetry is the rhythm of it kind of balances the mind and slows it down. I was reading one of these poems to one of the little children the other day, and you could see him enjoying the rhythm of it. And I think that it settles the mind. I think we should all, if you can't read it, write it. Right, here we go. This is called The Golden Chance. There is in this life this golden chance for every valiant soul. The unpenned poem or romance, the undiscovered goal. Beyond the sum of all we know and all that man has done, life holds a never-ending row of glories to be won. Still waits the canvas for the paint, the paper for the pen. Still searches faith to find a saint among the ranks of men. Though man, it seems, has traveled far along achievement's way, his conquests and his triumphs are but splendors for a day. In all that is of paint and print and marvels that we see, life gives us but the faintest hint of splendors yet to be. On still untraveled roads of fame the feet of men shall climb, far nobler goals than ours to claim from the rich lap of time. Unreckoned genius yet unborn, undreamed of deeds shall do. Night ends the old, every morn life bids anew. Start the new. So I thought that was an interesting poem, that there's the unpenned poem and the canvas waiting for the paint. It just reminded me I've got a little closet over there that I have coats and things in, and there's a box full of blank canvases. So I need to get started. And as my descendants increase, I want to leave behind one painting for each person. And they can think that they had this old granny that lived in the olden times, you know, when people painted by hand before AI. You know, I've got this, I just wanted to tell you how to be more content. Okay, here's what I do. I live in an area which is right next to the meeting house, but the meeting house is just a gravel, dull parking lot, which is too bad, but you know, you have to have a place to put cars. It's not very pretty, you know, there are no flowering bushes around or anything, it's just very plain. But I have an actual imagination, an actual intelligence, and my actual intelligence creates this romantic pathway, just like Anne of Green Gables when she called this place that she first saw, the road they were traveling down in the cart, she said, I'm going to call it the Avenue. So she had actual intelligence. So we still have AI. It's always existed. So that's my, and if I were to draw a picture of it, I would make it a lot prettier than it is. But that's a good way, you know, to make your life a little bit better. And now I have one more poem to read to you. And it's called See It Through. I have read this before. I think I probably read I may have read almost every poem now in here. But it's just to get you started in your day. Make sure you have your list. Get yourself prepared. I always write down prep as the first thing, and that includes, you know, bathing, dressing, prayer, notebook with a list of things to do, maybe a few stretches, a few exercises, and then other little things that I have to do, like make myself a cup of tea, or just write a letter or whatever. Kind of start out rather slow, and then if you can, I heard one time, if you can get control of your morning, you can win the day. So I'm trying to do more of that. So this is called See It Through, and I have read this to you before. So you can listen to this while you're getting ready. When you're up against a trouble, meet it squarely, face to face. Lift your chin and set your shoulders, plant your feet, and take a break. When it's vain to try to dodge it, do the best that you can do. You may fail, but you may conquer. See it through. Black may be the clouds about you, and your future may seem grim. But don't let your nerve desert you. Keep yourself in fighting trim. If the worst is bound to happen, in spite of all that you can do, running from it will not save you. See it through. Even hope may seem but futile when with troubles you're beset. But remember, you are facing just what other men have met. You may fail, but fall still fighting. Don't give up, whatever you do. Eyes front, head high to the finish, see it through. I have, over the years, seen people fight almost physically to get something done that they wanted to accomplish, and even if they lost, they would not quit fighting, even if they didn't achieve it. Very interesting. Get more out of life that way, I think. Okay. Reward, or reward as they say around here. Don't want medals on my breast, don't want all the glory. I'm not worrying greatly lest the world won't hear my story. A chance to dream beside a stream where fish are biting free, a day or two neath skies of blue is joy enough for me. Yeah, that's the fisherman's refrain, isn't it? And now this one is called, excuse me, I'm still coughing. The pathway of the living is our ever-present care. Let us do our best to smooth it and to make it bright and fair. Let us travel it with kindness. Let's be careful as we tread, and give unto the living what we'd offer to the dead. The pathway of the living we can beautify and grace. We can line it deep with roses and make earth a happier place. But we've done all mortals can do when our prayers are softly said for the souls of those that traveled o'er the pathway of the dead. The pathway of the living all our strength and courage needs. There we ought to sprinkle favors. There we ought to sow our deeds. There our smiles should be the brightest. There our kindness words be said. For the angels have the keeping of the pathway of the dead. Now that's a good message. Seems rather dreary at first, but as I got reading through it, I saw that it was trying to say, live while you live, and minister to the living. And so, ladies, I have quite a message for you today. I'm going to start out with Linda Lichter's book, and this other book, The Lost Art of Dress, because I'm still talking about dressing for the home and how integral that is to your feelings and to your motivation. So I'm going to read from this book here, The Lost Art of Dress. And let me see if I have my marker in the wrong place. No, I do. I have it in the right place. Now, this is a hard book to understand, similar to Linda Lichter, the way she wrote. She had been a reporter, and it's not an easy read, but sometimes I'll have to read it over to understand it. She was talking about in this book how a mature dress was taken away from people. And I just wanted to tell you just briefly what it used to be like. When girls were little, their dresses were short and their hair was down. And then they could move about, run and play and everything. They weren't wearing anything fussy. But they often would have a box or a trunk or something where they had dress-up clothes. And dress-up clothes were long, and there were hats and beads and things like that. And girls would often reach around the age of 12 and say to their mothers, "Can I put my hair up? Can I wear a long dress?" And the mothers would look down on them and say, "You're not quite grown up enough for that yet." So grown up was fully dressed in long clothes and the hair was up. And this book here talks about how mature dress was taken away from women, and now we all are supposed to look like baby dolls. And I noticed even at a store I went to just kind of look around and see what they were offering was this, it's cottagecore, It's just kind of like what I'm wearing, and it was gingham and everything, but it was real short. It would have been a blouse because it was so short. But what they're doing is now they're designing dresses for girls to still look like children, and even mature women. And mature dressing is not pretty. Nobody wants to wear the clothes that's made for mature women, and even the teenagers don't want to wear it. It's not very pretty, so they'll choose these short, skimpy clothes because they've got some attraction to them in the style and design and everything. But let me just read to you. Now, she mentions names that I have never heard of. And Eve Merriam, a poet and playwright, wrote a send-up of the fashion industry in 1960 entitled Fig Leaf, in which she suggested that the young baby boomers were already having an effect on their elders. She noticed how many adult women were trying to dress as if they were still teenagers. Patterns from the adult world that can be striven for have disappeared. Do you remember we used to be able to order patterns from these little local newspapers, and they were just really, it was just interesting. I got one time and tried to make it, and you can't get them anymore, but you can find them on Pinterest. Here's the question you need to listen to and think about. What can children look up to and try to emulate? Remember, I told you last time, we've got little children. You're wearing something quite skimpy or short, and what are they seeing? They're seeing your bare thighs, your bare knees, your bare everything. And then on top of that, you're wearing some kind of a little short thing where your stomach is bare, and then your chest is bare and everything. So these children don't grow up seeing fabric and pretty stuff, and we need to make the world a prettier place, and also your clothing is an influence. So, what can children look up to and try to emulate? What are the goals to be attained when they reach majority age? Asked Miriam. When the word mature in dress is taken for a pejorative, it also has an effect in fields far beyond fashion, reaching into all the spiritual values we consider worthy. The shift put both older and younger women in a bind. 10 years ago, women dressed well and looked dignified, even at the grocery store. Today, if you dress like a decent person, you are made to feel you are a million years old. If you dress young, you look like an idiot. What choice is there? And 1968 was also the year a minor crisis occurred in determining the best dressed list. The list, officially described on the voting ballot as women of distinguished taste. One of the judges, or fashion authorities, complained that there weren't any teenagers on the list, when they were the only people with any style. They are the real dynamos, and everybody else is just plodding along, she told a reporter. In 1980, a writer for the Los Angeles Times called the 2 decades of women lives between the 2 decades of a woman lives between the ages of 40 and 60 her invisible years. The writer, a woman who was not looking forward to these decades, protested that a man could aim to look handsome his whole life, but a middle-aged woman must give up trying to look pretty or cute. The best thing she can do is take refuge in looking chic. But looking chic was something the author didn't seem to think was worth the effort. Now here's something you might observe. In Congress, the men look very similar to what they looked in 1776. They have collars up to here, they have pants down that covers their ankles, and they're wearing shoes and socks. And if they showed up in Congress wearing shorts and a shirt with a beer commercial on it, there'd be a big outrage. They probably wouldn't be allowed in. They don't go into Congress showing their chest or showing their legs or any bare skin on a man. They look And it's the same that I've noticed. It's the women's clothing that are corrupted and changed all the time. And I dress the same as I dressed when I was a teenager. I am still attracted to the same kind of clothes that I liked when I was very young. And my daughter and granddaughter are that way too. They grew up in this lovely cotton type of clothing that is fresh and pretty, and they can still buy things like that, and they'll like it forever because it's been bred into them. And I still make clothes that I still have the patterns of clothes that I wore when I was a teenager, and I could make them and still like them, but it would be new fabric. And so, but the women, unfortunately, the last political woman that I remember dressing decently in Congress was Phyllis Schlafly. Her husband had died, I think, and so she took his place in Congress, and you could do that. I'm not sure, I'll have to look that up, but someone had given up their seat and appointed her or died or something. She had her hair in a French roll, and she wore suits. She wore women's suits, and they were below her knees. She hardly showed any flesh at all because her message was so important. You probably wouldn't even be able to describe what she wore because it was her message that was, and the attraction was drawn to her face where her message was coming from, as I have mentioned several times. But now you look at them, they're not only sleeveless, but there are some of their garments are held up just by a string around their neck. And yes, they may have a dress, but it'd be just maybe down to their knees. A lot of bare skin there. And I looked up modesty on YouTube because I like to see what some of the influencers have to say, and I was deeply disappointed. Even the ones where I would try to find out, how to be respectable in your manners and your behavior and everything. The women often had cleavage showing, lots of flesh showing, and bare arms. And I always like to say, the right to bear arms does not mean you don't need to use sleeves. Sleeves just, to me, give me more to work with because I am a sewist. And it gives me more, I like different styles of them and ideas. Plus, they keep me protected and also cool if they're loose. And as I get older, my skin gets crepey or, gets dark spots or anything like that on, the sleeves can cover all that. And what wonderful thing that a dress can do for you when you're at home is it covers up all the flaws. If it fits you properly, it's not going to show parts of you that you think are imperfect. A dress can often balance your figure if you know what looks good on you. It can often balance your figure, and it's just the best thing. And so I want to read now from Linda Lichter. Now that I've talked too much, Linda Lichter here, continuing from the previous video. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Brooks Brothers. I think that was quite a while ago, wasn't it? It was and Land's End. I don't know if it was more of a real practical, I'm thinking it was outdoor clothing, but let me read what she says about it. Brooks Brothers and Land's End type clothing is more typical garb for mainstream America. Neither shocking nor seductive, these clothes are simply bland. But here's what we're not being trained for. Girls think that their clothing should be seductive. But that doesn't serve a very good purpose. And especially at home, this is a good time to try to influence them. And you might think that you're at home and nobody's watching you or looking at you, but the minute you step outside that door, you do have a great influence, even if someone has come to leave a package or something like that. I like to look okay, feel like I look okay for the public. I may wear an apron, but to walk down the road to the post box and open it, there's going to be the occasional car or tractor that goes by, and I want to remember not to ruin the scenery by dressing in such grody clothing that it's shocking. And nowadays, the clothing is so utterly decrepit that if they're trying to attract men, the men aren't looking anymore. The ones they're looking at are the women that are covered and wearing flowing dresses and pretty hair bows and lipstick. Those are the ones that are getting the looks, but they're not getting dirty looks. They're getting appreciative, relieved looks. Finally, there's somebody that I don't have to look at half dressed. So that is the impression that I get. So let me continue this. And I may have read some of this before. But whether we practice exhibitionism or a clothes in the crowd philosophy, so on one side there's the look at me, show off clothes, and the shock, or the clothes in the crowd philosophy, I don't want to be noticed, so I'll just throw on this other stuff. Whether we practice exhibitionism or a clothes in the crowd philosophy by what we wear or bear, we have lost all sense of personal appearance as a source of a social uplift. That's why I say, ladies at home, wearing something nice at home will lift you up, and you'll feel motivated to do something that is creative and useful in your own home. Signifying self-respect and facilitating mutual respect. The Victorians, however, were very conscious of both functions of dress. See, it's a covering, but it also is it's like wearing a sign of respect. In the potent words of Sarah Josepha Hale, dress is both a cause and consequence of civilized life. The idea that clothes could have a civilizing or higher moral power became one of the many discarded Victorian, quote, pretensions. Now in this book, she shows how the 20th century moderns accused the Victorians, our Victorian grandmothers and great-grandmothers, of being pretentious because of the clothes they wore. We cannot find any evidence that they thought it was pretentious. It was the modernists that had to separate us from the dignity of our clothing, because they know they can break us down that way, you know. And remember when the serpent spoke to Eve, she listened to him, and it's the same way here. The fashion industry speaks to you, and it's very addictive too. Wear this, you'll feel really cool. The idea that clothes could have a civilizing or higher moral power became one of the many discarded Victorian, quote, pretensions, unquote. Where Godey's Ladies' Book melded a philosophy of dress and life, the burgeoning fashion magazines of the 20s, fed by advertising dollars from the new cosmetics industries, sold women on a perfectly polished surface as their highest goal. Now such polish is reserved by most for only the most formal occasions. Remember I told you last time how shocked I was that, see, I had just been married and was still at the end of the, what do you call it? The trousseau, you know, where you collect clothes for your first year or month or your wedding journey. You collect these clothes, and they were called a trousseau, and you'd wear them to one to your first dinner out, and one to your first night at home, and one for, you know, just various things. It was called a trousseau. And then why am I always shocked? I was so shocked when I went to a wedding and we got to also see them off, and they got on the airplane wearing stuff that looked like they just come home from the beach, flip-flops and everything at the time. Although there have been some airlines that have banned that. That was a long time ago. And I thought, what kind of impression are they giving each other? I guess they didn't care. But, you know, even today, to talk about it is absolutely futile because they don't care. And not caring is it's a dyslexia, you know. Maybe it's a disorder. Okay. Flying in an airplane has become so commonplace that many make themselves comfortable and dress in cut-offs, flip-flops, and tank tops. Well, that's what this honeymoon couple was dressed in. And yet they had spent thousands on their wedding and thousands on her dress and everything else, you know, just perfect. And I guess I expected more. I thought that maybe her mother would have helped her shop for something and they would have shown a good, you know, a good impression. It isn't just for each other, but it's for those around us we have an influence on. We can change things, you know. Recently, a new disincentive to poolside lounging appeared. Let me see. I've lost my place here. A century ago, the style and meaning of clothes occupied eminent critics of architecture, art, and life. And you notice as the clothes have kind of gone downhill in, what is it, form and function, so has the language. So has I would say the architecture, if you want to call it architecture. So has the art. So has the literature. And so has the poetry. And it's just constantly changing fashions used to provide endless fodder for serious debate. Critics would verbally duel to the death on this subject because the Victorians thought of dress not just as a badge of individual expression, but as a collective experience that could help civilize society and elevate the quality of life. So that's what I'm saying to you ladies at home. Dress nicely. It will elevate the quality of your day. And one of the saddest things is that a homemaker is often on her own. We don't do well, we don't do our work in groups, you know, like in businesses. And so you have to be self-motivated. You have to be self-made, and you have to be self-employed. And so your clothing has a great deal to do with it. And back in the 80s, a man named J.T. Malloy wrote a book called Dress for Success. And it was on the beginning of people having businesses of their own in their garage, and they use their phone for their contacts and for their business transactions. And he said in that book, you've still got to get up, get a shower, and dress up. You know, wear a shirt with a collar and be professional. And so it's the same with the home. Don't be laying around thinking that just because no one's seeing you, it doesn't matter. And I know probably you could get the job done in your sleeping clothes, but you know, when you've gotten dressed, there's a dignity to it, and it becomes a spiritual matter. By contrast, modern self-expressions of dress was epitomized for me by a 20-something man clad in a bright yellow sweatshirt that proclaimed in bold black letters, "Me, myself, and I," and that was the least obscene I had seen. We will never again fuss with 20-button gloves, even though it is just these nuances of Victorian life that charm us in the telling. We may scoff at the antique notion of clothing as an index and prologue to character that could ennoble or degrade the nation, but to recapture the sense of community we all want to have, we need to view community spirit as more than prodding people to vote or do volunteer work. We must rediscover the common sense wisdom that recognizes how individual appearance subtly colors the aura of our goals and behavior. That is why I'm saying, don't bother with the volunteer work. Volunteer at home. Volunteer to wear nice clothing when you're out and at home. There'll be great changes made and are being made. I want to read more to you this another time. So now to my notes. This is where you're really going to be. Now I wanted to recommend 2 books for you, even if you're an adult, you live alone in your home, and even if you are of vital age. One is Man in Demand. We used it for years in homeschooling. A lot of boys and girls laughed at it, but if it's read carefully, it's wonderful. And it's all about clothing and dressing and posture, and it's done in cartoon form, which is easy to read and to understand. And it even tells, how to look your best, and just different things that are good. And if the kids don't want it and they don't want to listen to it, you read it so you know these things. And I think the girls should read it too, because then they'll find out, what kind of a young man has the most ideal character just by reading this. And I think the boys should read the girls' ones too. We need to know what each other is supposed to be like. We need to know what the ideal is. But the girls' one, I was really impressed with it because it showed the difference between the masculine dress and the feminine dress. Now, some of it is a bit dated. I probably would prefer that the skirts would be a little longer. But one of the things I liked about it was it showed a little list here on things to wear when. And I must dress appropriately, the right clothes for the occasion. Dressy, church, every day. And of course there's and this is, I must learn to mix and match with skill. I must dress with simplicity, and it shows, the messiness and everything. Ladies, this was supposed to be for young girls and for teenagers, but it's for us. We need to read this and to know it. Read every page. Use it as your little homeschool ritual in the morning. Just read 1 page today. Put it on your list, and then check it off. And so if all you do, let's say today, all you do is read the first lesson, or just 1 page. That's all you need to do. Now it has places to write in. What I would suggest you do, if you get one of these, get the one with the red cover, is use your copy machine and just make a copy of the work pages. Don't fill them out, because in years to come it might not be available. You might not be able to get it, so you'll want to keep it nice and clean. And people think of clothing at home as a mechanical matter. Oh, clothing is just like, well, there's a furniture, we have to sit in, we need a chair to sit on. Clothing, we need a blouse, and we need something to wear. They don't really connect it to the mind. But one of the experiments you can do is dress terribly one day and see how it goes for you, and bathe and dress up the next day, or just half a day, and just see what a difference it makes in you and your attitude. And there used to be books and articles written about values in clothing, and these wise mothers that took their daughters to clothing stores and showed them clothing values. They would say, this is long enough, but it's got too much going on up here, or it's too bare up here. And one of the things we had to watch out for is to be a beautiful dress that had sleeves and everything, but the bodice was a built-in bra, and you could see it. It was absolutely so obvious. And the other thing that we had to look for is that if the dress was okay up here and covered well, it was real short. It had long kick pleats and things in them. what was it called, where you can stick your leg out? And so we had to have values in dress. Okay, so we would write it down on a piece of paper what we're looking for. It also has to have a pretty print or a pretty color. It also has to feel nice. And we saw dresses that would have worked out, but we didn't like the bold stripes on them or something like that. And so that's how you develop values in dress. And then there's a book that I used, and it was called, I'm trying to think of what it was called. And so we would go through that, and we'd point out the clothing that had the best values. I'm trying to think what it was called. I'll bring it next time, okay? So try to dress as not to destroy the someone's view. Okay, there might not be scenery around you, but don't ruin someone's view. It's depressing. It's depressing to see what women are wearing, and I'll tell you what, dressing nicely every day can keep your mind sharp and also can keep you from eating. If you're wearing something pretty, you've spent some time to put it on and anything, the last thing you're thinking about is eating. Also can keep you active. If you're wearing something pretty, you don't feel like laying around. And if you've got shoes on, it helps. So pay attention to yourself, dress well, and speak well. Now, I want to get into speaking because it's related to dressing. And that is, there are a lot of, if you're going to dress well, then you're going to have good manners to go with it. You can't just dress well and then kind of barge through life doing and saying things that are extremely rude. And so one of the things that's a lot of fun to do is write out a role-playing situation where maybe ladies are sitting around, or there's a couple of daughters, a granddaughter, a mother, a grandmother, and write a little play where they can read the wrong way to approach something and then the right way to do it. So let's just give a scenario of, I'll just make up a story as I go, and that is, let's just say these are members of the family and they're close, they like to do things together, when all of a sudden one of the girls gets the idea that she wants to go do something, and so the other girls follow her, and so the mother and grandmother who were talking to her or visiting just gets left alone, and how that makes them feel. And also you tend to lose your solid thinking sometimes when there's other people around, and you can leave other people out, and that would be a good story, a good role-playing thing to do. And this happens a lot. So what would have made that better? Mom, sister and I are going to go do such and such. Do you want to come? Do you want to join us? And it can happen with adult-related women too, where they suddenly go and do something and leave somebody else out. But the proper thing to do is say, we are now going to, or even we're going to have some tea. Would you like to join us? Something like that. It's like that last scenario I told you about when someone enters the room and there are already two people in there talking. The rude person will say, we're having a private conversation. And I said private conversations are held behind closed doors, and not, if it's someone who lives in the house and you're doing it in a common room where other people walk through, you invite them to join it. And the way it's done is, like I said in a previous video, and I got it from Wives and Daughters, when Molly walked into the dining area where her father, Dr. Gibson, was having lunch with his apprentices. And she walked in and he said, "Molly, Mr. Wynn and I were just discussing such and such." And he tried to include her. And 9 times out of 10, the person that enters the room and sees a conversation going will decline to join and just keep walking through. But it's still polite. It's rude to leave people out and to say, well, we're just going to go do this, and not invite them. And this reminds me of many times when girls were little and other girls decided they wanted to go for a little walk around somewhere, and there'd be certain ones they would walk too fast and leave them behind because they didn't want them to hear what they were saying or talking about. That's very rude behavior. That would be a fun play to do, and then you would do it wrong first, and then you would do it. It'd be very dramatic, and then you would do it right the second time. As we're going to walk around outside here. Would you like to come with us, Mary? And always include people. So your manners have to go with the way you dress. And I've seen this several times with different people in a grocery store. There's an older sister. They're with their mother and they're buying their groceries, and there's a little sister that just adores her older sister, and she's asking her questions about things. And the older sister is not answering, or she's saying, she's being quite clipped with her and sharp, and you can see the little sister's looking at her like, what happened? We used to be such friends. But in this social situation, the older sister starts to change her brain to adjust to the social situation, and she forgets to love her little sister. This happens all the time, even with adults. I've seen people, walk away from someone when they're in the public. Just walk away from them. And so that's always rude, but it'd be fun to do little role-playing things like that when I write my novel. So not only must we dress beautifully and not modestly and sensibly, but we must behave the same way too. And so you also must take care of your skin. And so that's only a small part of the idea of dressing well. You've got to take care of your skin. Now I wanted to show you another, I probably won't be able to finish all my notes here, but I wanted to show you another trend that I noticed and wondered if you've never noticed it with anybody. There is a trend to talk as if a person isn't there. And they will walk into a little group that's talking or see somebody they know or something and say, "There's Sally in her red dress." Or "There's Sally looking at her phone." Or "There's Sally writing in her notebook." "There's Sally and her bows in her hair." And talk as though she's not there, even though they're right up next to her, and talk, what do you call that? Is that third personing? I'm not sure. It's weird. And I heard another person say, how is Sally? And they're standing right there. What is that? When did that start? I'm sorry, I don't do that. I feel really weird if I did that. I would say, "How are you, Sally?" But I could tell that this woman was irritated by it, and so she didn't answer. She just walked away. That's really bad behavior. But I don't think people know it. It's just they just don't want to talk to somebody, and it's just kind of a nervous thing to do it. It's like doing it at a distance. It's just the strangest behavior. Have you ever had that happen? So the fun thing to do with you ladies at home is to do some of these role-playing things. Now regarding modesty, we'll go back to modesty. This reminds me that there was a very elegant video. I think it was a short or something. I couldn't tell you what it was. I saw some time ago of a Jamaican lady that teaches etiquette classes, and it was kind of like the little private modeling school that I went to when I was quite young, because they had a lot of social manners and things, how to make introductions and everything like that, how to enter a room and how to serve at a buffet or something like that. And this lady, I noticed, she was teaching the young girls something I had not seen, not even in my class. But if you had to pick up something off of the floor, sometimes people will drop something on the floor. She had them all doing this. When they reached over to pick it up, they had to hold their bodice close to their neck. Isn't that interesting? So that it wouldn't gape open when they picked something up. And even the littlest girls were doing this. I had not seen that before. That wasn't in any of my classes that I attended. But what a great idea, because even in a t-shirt, people can lean over and everything is on full view from whoever's standing above you. And so if you can see immodesty and cleavage and everything, if you can see it from where you are with your own clothes, if it's gaping out, then other people can see it too. And but I thought that was quite clever. And if I can find her again, I will show it to you. I thought it was so good. It's very old-fashioned. Now, I think that I have just about covered everything that I wanted to here. So, like I said, this lady was teaching girls to move gracefully, but she also had something to say about their shoes. They had to have what you called street shoes, and street shoes do not have a great big, thick, clunky sole. They're not sports shoes, and they're easier to feel the ground beneath them and to walk and to turn around and everything like that. And so we'll discuss shoes sometime when I'm on here, if I'm still doing clothing. There are other subjects that I want to discuss on this blog, and I certainly do thank you for coming today. And thank you for all you do and for your encouragement. And I will put the dress on a dress form and take some pictures around here of some other things and of the books that I have covered. Thank you very much for all you do, and God bless you. Bye.